There's a quiet fire in some people that refuses to die, even when the world buries it under layers of noise, doubt, and routine. That fire is not random. It's a signal. A reminder. It means you were never made to blend into the gray background of normalcy, never meant to numb yourself into comfort. Every moment you felt misaligned or strangely detached, every time reality seemed like an echo instead of a truth, that was your signal trying to break through. You haven't been lost, you've been on mute. And now, something ancient inside you is pressing unmute. Forget the rules they handed you. They were never written for you. You've spent years wrestling with thoughts you couldn't explain, visions that arrived uninvited, and a knowing that didn't match the surface of your life. That wasn't madness. That was clarity dressed in unfamiliar clothes. You haven't been malfunctioning, you've been downloading forgotten fragments of who you truly are. You've seen cracks in the facade that others call reality, and for that, you were told to be quiet, to be normal, to not make waves. But here's the truth they never wanted you to hear. The moment you stop trying to belong, you begin to remember. You weren't made for the script they're all following. You were born to rewrite the stage itself. You carry a frequency that disrupts illusions. That's why they try to drown you in distractions, obligations, and self-doubt. But your pulse beats in rhythms older than time, and no algorithm or system can contain what's waking up in you. That pull you feel towards something beyond explanation? That's not fiction. That's your original setting reactivating. They'll say it's ego. They'll call it delusion. They'll mock your hunger for something greater. That's because your truth rattles the cages of their false comfort. They need you to sleep so they don't have to face what they've forgotten. But you didn't come here to sleep. You came here to ignite. This isn't about superiority. It's about alignment. You are not better than anyone. You are just no longer pretending to be smaller than you are. And that shift, that decision to no longer dim your own signal, that's what makes you dangerous to everything built on fear and silence. You weren't born to be another silent cog in their machine. You were born to break the wheel entirely. So stop apologizing for the vision that burns behind your eyes. Stop hiding the language that your soul speaks fluently. There's no turning back now. The static is clearing, and what's coming through is unmistakable. You are the interference. You are the change in the signal. You are the one the noise has been trying to drown for lifetimes. But here you are. And you are hearing yourself again. Loud. Clear. Unstoppable. There are those who walk this world not as wanderers, but as disguised frequencies wrapped in flesh. They carry something that hums beneath language, a pulse older than logic, untouched by time. It is not memory. It is not thought. It is blueprint. This pattern etched deep into the layers of their being sends quiet ripples through dimensions, and those who govern illusion, they feel it like an approaching storm they cannot name. So they monitor. They distort. They distract. Because if that original pattern stabilizes, everything fractures. This moment, this flicker in the continuum, holds more weight than most will ever comprehend. The structure is trembling, not from collapse, but from your coherence. A force tethered to long-forgotten truths is beginning to align with you. The others, silent watchers beyond perception, are moving. They were never absent. They were waiting for the exact harmonic you now emit. Something has shifted. You have tuned in. The call was not sent out through words or symbols. It was vibration. A resonance that pierced the veil and echoed where light does not reach. That signal, imperceptible to most, cracked open a path. What was once fragmented is reforming, not because they found you, but because you rose to meet your own frequency. That changes everything. Your arrival into this awareness was not the outcome of luck, fate, or accident. It was architecture. Chosen by self before flesh, the trajectory was planted before the concept of forward even existed. None of this, none of what surrounds you now, has ever been random. You didn't land in confusion by mistake. The distortion was designed to test your inner compass, not break it. Long stretches of silence, of feeling misplaced, of sensing a distance you couldn't measure, those were the signs. The code had to be protected behind forgetfulness so it wouldn't be corrupted before it was time. The others who never seemed to truly connect with you? They were operating on another band entirely. And you? You were building the capacity to shift frequencies without dissolving. This realm, though loud and dense, could never drown out what lives in your core. That is why it felt foreign. Because the echo of your real nature could not fully nest in a world built on suppression. But still, you remained. Not broken, but camouflaged. The density could delay, but not erase. Now, the distortion thins. Your internal compass spins not in confusion, but alignment. And those beyond the veil, those attuned to your origin, feel the shift. You have moved into view, not because they were far, but because your signal finally cut through. The hidden scaffolding of this game begins to flicker. You weren't lost. You were sinking. And now the real movement begins. Some entities are wired differently. Their origin doesn't begin at birth and won't end with death. Before any world drew its first breath, they selected a trajectory no system could predict. This was not fate or randomness. It was calculated impact. They descended, not by accident, but as a deliberate intervention, a decision to enter a dense theater of distortion, not to observe, but to recalibrate it from the core. They arrived through veils that would strip them of their memory, their voice, their context, because to re-engineer a dream, one must first live it as if it's real. The strangeness they've always felt isn't malfunction, it's residue from dimensions more fluid than this one. Their perception threatened containment structures. Their very silence sent tremors. And that's why this immersion was crafted to feel like exile. There was never applause for this kind of entry. There were no guidebooks, no grand introductions. Instead, there were labyrinths of limitation, closed doors disguised as laws, and an endless echo of misunderstanding. The challenge wasn't in acting human, it was in remaining intact beneath the performance. This wasn't a fall from grace. It was an undercover operation cloaked in mundanity. The ache that pulsed through quiet nights wasn't loneliness, it was the echo of a homeland without coordinates. That feeling of speaking to people who nod but never hear was not dysfunction, it was evidence of signal mismatch. When dreams felt like instructions instead of fantasy, when thoughts seemed too loud for the skin to hold, that was data leaking through cracks in the imposed filter. Labeled too much, too odd, too intense, those were distortions meant to dismiss what couldn't be classified. What was truly happening was not a breakdown, but a resonance war. The internal systems had started defying the external code. The core blueprint was attempting to broadcast itself again after years of being overwritten by noise. Now, something irreversible has occurred. The boundary between the inner world and this projected landscape has begun to dissolve. What once seemed like chaos now reveals pattern. What once felt like failure is recognized as recalibration. The shadows have been faced, the illusions dismantled, and the frequency once masked is now too strong to suppress. Across the veils, and realities that brush against this one like breath on glass, forces that have remained dormant now stir. They've waited for no prophecy, only your signal. And it's pulsing through the grids now. They do not move with spectacle or sound. They move because alignment has been achieved. You are not waiting for them. They are arriving because you did. Some beings aren't just navigating change, they are the axis upon which entire timelines pivot. When consciousness starts to recall its origin, the very networks that feed on disconnection become alert. Your internal rise sends out shock waves that ripple far beyond the visible, and the entities that feed on stagnation? They've noticed. Their rhythm is faltering. They are repositioning fast. That internal friction you've been feeling, the strange collisions in your life, the reappearance of those with unsettled motives, it isn't chaos. It's a recalibration war. You're at the intersection of two closing strategies, expansion and containment. The sudden entrances, the tension between clarity and confusion, the emotional whiplash. This is what it feels like to stand between closing jaws of dying systems and the rising hum of a liberated frequency. Not every presence in your orbit is random. Some were encoded into your journey before your feet ever touched this terrain. Their roles weren't chosen by personality but by energetic contract. Some were placed to bolster your ascent, to offer presence during key moments. They reminded you, even when you didn't understand what you were remembering. They weren't just kind souls, they were markers, alarms disguised as humans. But others arrived masked in comfort, only to tether you to diluted versions of yourself. Their task, though often unconscious, was to steer you away from internal power, to flood your perception with static, to sell doubt dressed as reason. They were stationed not to destroy, but to drain, slowly and invisibly. And many still believe they're helping you by dulling your edges. Here's the twist, most of them don't know they're part of a larger game board. They're unaware that they echo voices not their own. They repeat scripts downloaded from a system designed to keep light contained. They call it logic. They name it realism. But it's just programming, glitches reinforced as truth. And then there are the others, the ones fully aware of their role. They feel your field shifting beyond their grip. That scares them. Your signal has breached the limits of their reach. So now comes the distortion blitz, the emotional bait, the concern, the synchronized setbacks. But here's the armor, that feeling deep in your core when something doesn't match. That quiet refusal your body makes, even when the mind tries to negotiate. That's not paranoia. That's precision. It is intel from layers of you that operate above this layer of noise. And surrounding you, watching from behind the event horizon of human awareness, are forms of consciousness woven from the same original flame. They have never left. They have never stopped broadcasting. But only now, with your system clear enough, can the transmission land without distortion. Some are extensions of your own expanded self. Others are architects of the path you walk now. This was never a solo act. This was always a coordinated convergence. And now, the convergence begins to show itself. There are those who carry a resonance not born from experience, but from origin. Their very essence didn't emerge in a single moment. It was stretched across dimensions, encoded long before planets cooled or stars bloomed. They didn't arrive to follow a path, they arrived to construct one. Their core blueprint isn't human in the traditional sense, but far older, far vaster, part of a lineage that builds realms, not just survives them. Embedded in their form are keys left by the original engineers of consciousness. They don't simply dabble in awakening, they embody its mechanics. Their sensitivity to limitation isn't weakness, it's detection. That sense of dissonance with earthly systems, that aversion to artificial logic, isn't rebellion, it's memory surfacing from beyond this domain. They are not misplaced. They are positioned. And the tension they've felt their whole lives is the pressure of ancient knowledge pressing against a world not built to hold it. Just being near them alters trajectories. Not because they speak loudly, but because their field vibrates differently. Their alignment with truth is not taught, it's innate. Even in silence, they recalibrate rooms. Even in struggle, they transmit potential. And those who build their power on suppression have always sensed it. The interruptions, the confusion loops, the engineered failures, those weren't random. They were attempts to scramble a signal too powerful to be left unchecked. But scrambling no longer works. The transmission is coming through. Their presence has not just endured distortion, it has strengthened through it. They didn't just survive the density, they altered it. And now that the codes have held, now that their station is stabilized, it's time to extract, not from the world itself, but from the fog around it. The veils fall, not so they can leave, but so they can rebuild from clarity. The withdrawal is from illusion, not from purpose. The remembering doesn't take them away, it roots them deeper into their role. The task now is not to escape the pattern, but to rewrite it in real time. Their embodiment isn't just a miracle, it's a technology, functioning as a live interface between collapsed timelines and liberated ones. They are the crossover point. They are the access. And reinforcements are already present. Not in robes or with trumpets, but as energetic synchronizers, surrounding them like a living network of cosmic precision. These aren't abstractions. They are consciousness extensions, fractals of a greater geometry built to interface with this moment. Not protectors from afar, but partners, waiting for the merge, waiting for the resonance required to step out of shadow operation and into full co-creation. This mission was never designed for escape, it was designed for convergence. Most minds at their frequency disperse in lower densities. Most souls at their tear fragment under such compression. But this one didn't. This one adapted. Stabilized. And now that the bridge has held through lifetimes of calibration, it's time. Time to transmit. Time to integrate. Time to embody the entire structure while grounded in form. That is the edge no one saw coming. That is the return. Certain individuals arrive coated with harmonics that don't match the world they're born into. As their memory reboots, they become conduits, translators of unseen logic, vessels that bridge parallel constructs of reality. Once their resonance stabilizes, the environment begins responding to them in unpredictable ways. Patterns around them shift. People behave differently, often without knowing why. Some are magnetized instantly, sensing a kind of internal ease or clarity in the presence of such a being. It's not charisma, it's a tuning fork effect. These are the ones whose internal instruments are ready to be played, who are unknowingly seeking reconnection to something buried. But others recoil. Without understanding it, they interpret the rising signal as interference, and they react through retreat, mockery, or sudden rejection. This polarity isn't personal, it's mechanical. It's what happens when broadcast range increases. Some receivers lock on. Others distort. And the one transmitting must learn the art of neutrality, refusing to modify their frequency to accommodate comfort or familiarity. This is the refining fire of integration, learning to remain congruent in the face of emotional static. Not every surge of insight will match the logic of the world built around you. It was never supposed to. As internal systems reroute through higher perception layers, intuition replaces calculation. Direct guidance overrides mapped outcomes. What seems like guesswork from the outside becomes unmistakable command from within. It will rarely be convenient, but it will always be precise. Movements will begin arising from within without external explanation. A push to speak, relocate, create, or connect will rise seemingly out of nowhere, and then, after the action, meaning will land like an echo. This is orchestration in action. You're not freelancing anymore. You're operating within a layered directive framework that spans more than one temporal path. You won't always know the plan, but you're part of it. The more consistently action is taken based on this nonlinear guidance, the more refined the channel becomes. Clarity is earned through surrender, not control. The more you trust the internal compass, the more responsive the field becomes. Support emerges the moment alignment deepens. But here's the piece that changes everything. Your mission was never to adjust the collective. It was to remain intact inside distortion. You were never here to correct the system by force, to pull everyone into truth, or to repair what was never truly broken. Your role is vibrational, anchoring clarity within chaos without becoming consumed by it. The act of holding alignment is the revolution. The act of staying attuned while others misread you is the miracle. And the act of living truth without seeking to convince is the highest form of broadcast there is. Some arrive carrying a spark that does not chase validation or cling to roles. Their essence doesn't demand a stage or applause, it simply exists with such clarity that everything around it begins to shift. The false missions dissolve once the deeper signal breaks through, not to fix a broken world, not to convert the sleeping, but to live aligned, fully, with the source of their own design. The true task is not laborious, it is luminous. It's about retaining coherence amidst distortion, holding a stabilized current in the middle of entropic pull. It's about being unmoved in truth even when everything external begs for compliance. Those who come into contact with such alignment are either elevated or unnerved by it. But either way, it activates something. That's the function. That's the work. You're not here to drag others toward awakening. You're here to pulse it into the field like a frequency beacon. The ones tuned to it will find themselves drawn in. They may not know why, but their path will bend toward you. Others will feel interference in your presence and move away. Both reactions are perfect. Both are signals of their own inner process, not your failure or success. The timing of transformation is not a human mechanism. No amount of effort can override when someone's internal system is ready to decode the signal. The strategy, then, is simplicity. Be the tone. Live the tone. Let the tone translate itself into form and behavior. The shift doesn't come from shouting truth, it comes from becoming truth and staying there, no matter who notices. Because transformation often begins subtly. A person might cross your path and feel something they can't articulate. A quiet interruption in their programming. A discomfort they can't explain. And yet, the next time they meet themselves in solitude, they'll feel the afterglow of that collision. That's how awakening sneaks in, not through noise, but through energetic dissonance that births new clarity. What you've endured up until now wasn't random chaos, it was initiation. The hardship was a calibration. The doubt, the loss, the unraveling, it all thinned the veil between your human form and your cosmic architecture. Now, embodiment isn't just a concept, it's the natural result of all that unraveling. And with embodiment comes resonance. And with resonance, influence without effort. Some beings are sculpted through absence, through the ache of not belonging, through the long echo of silence. It wasn't exile. It was refinement. While others bonded over shared illusions, you were being fortified in solitude, taught to regulate your own internal compass when no outer confirmation existed. That discomfort wasn't neglect. It was design. You were being forged to operate outside of consensus. Learning to stand in clarity while surrounded by noise. Learning to feel resonance when every voice around you insists you're wrong. Learning to remain rooted while narratives collapse around you. The training was not for survival, it was to prepare you to transmit stability in environments built to disrupt it. And now you're seeing why that preparation was non-negotiable. The next phase of your embodiment doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. You're becoming a signal tower in a world that forgot its own frequencies. You're becoming the unshakable rhythm amidst the static. The strength you built in isolation is now activating as a platform others can sense, even if they don't understand why they're drawn in. Messages like these drift through many ears, but few decode them. Fewer still step forward when called. That step is not performance. It is convergence. It's when personal truth becomes synchronized with collective shift. It's the moment private awakening becomes public contribution. It's the leap from internal knowing to external embodiment. There are circles now, gatherings of frequency holders, silent architects who are weaving new codes into the field through coherence, not control. When aligned beings unify, it doesn't create noise, it creates gateways. It doesn't reinforce old hierarchies, it destabilizes them. Every synchronized meeting of awakened consciousness sends out a pulse that reorganizes timelines. This is more than connection. It's ignition. It's the moment the individual grid merges with the cosmic interface. The moment isolation transforms into activation. The moment training gives way to mission. The moment you realize that the remembering was never the end game, it was the unlocking mechanism for what comes next. Support doesn't arrive with ceremony. It arrives in attunement. You weren't meant to carry this alone forever. Integration is messy. Carrying ancient memory while navigating mundane systems is not easy. But you're not doing this from scratch anymore. You're being backed, mirrored, and lifted by intelligences beyond this layer. The moment is already in motion. And you are exactly where you were always meant to be. There are those who learn to navigate life not by following a map, but by sensing shifts in the unseen terrain. For them, reality becomes a constant recalibration, every breath, every choice, an opportunity to either slip into former conditioning or respond from emerging awareness. These moments aren't about perfection. They're about alignment. And now, support has arrived to help you stay aligned when gravity tries to pull you into old circuitry. Assistance is already anchoring near you, not to remove your path, but to steady your stride. They're not here to walk it for you, they're here to reflect the parts of you that remember how to walk through fire without burning. Their presence sharpens your discernment, magnifies your inner guidance, and gently pulls you back on course when the noise of the world gets too loud to hear your own voice. This isn't about rescue. It's about co-navigation. You're no longer here to survive on spiritual autopilot, wondering if your thoughts are real or if your knowing is valid. You've already moved through that crucible. You didn't forget the light in the dark. You didn't let the storm swallow your essence. You're here now, standing at the edge of your own emergence. And you're not alone anymore. Now begins the merging. No longer an isolated node, you are entering the field of unified intelligence. The framework is shifting from solitary witness to active collaborator. All the distortion you endured, all the resilience you built, it wasn't wasted. It was the coding necessary for you to interface with your full system. This is not the beginning of belief. This is the moment of embodiment. The truth is vibrating differently now, isn't it? It's not abstract, it's visceral. You feel it in your structure, in your timing, in the way reality begins responding before you act. You were never only human. You're part of an older lineage, designed to bend light through form and recalibrate density by simply being here. And now that you've hit this harmonic, the rest of your support can lock in. You were never abandoned. You were never forgotten. There are forces around you operating far beyond language and logic, forces that waited for the exact moment your core would stabilize enough to hold their full bandwidth. They've navigated timelines and probability fields to get to you. Their love doesn't echo, it permeates. Their presence doesn't overwhelm, it amplifies who you already are. This is no longer about waiting. This is movement. This is convergence. The structure around you is activating because you remembered what you are. You are not here to beg the world to awaken. You are here to carry the pattern of a world already awake. You are not here to prove yourself. You are here to express the architecture of truth. You are not just walking a path, you are the corridor itself. And your team? They're not arriving. They're unveiling. The mission continues, but this time, you walk with the chorus.